Today we are kicking off our provider education series on behalf of Treehouse. We're starting out with a topic that many practitioners and providers across Canada find near and dear to their heart, and something that's incredibly important for their practice, and that is finding and attracting clients for my practice. And so we're going to be joined by Tara Bruley from Modern Birth Co. And we'll get started with that. But before we do that, I just wanted to introduce what the provider education series is. And it's really an opportunity for practitioners from across Canada to not only learn and share best practices on topics that are really relevant to them growing as practitioners, from fertility all the way to early childhood. At Treehouse, we've built technology to help you stay connected to your practice and your clients. And this education series is there to simply amplify that. So over the course of the next half an hour to 40 minutes, Tara and I will be chatting about this wonderful topic. I ask you to keep yourself on mute, just a couple housekeeping kind of rules. And I also ask you to ask all of your questions or save all your questions till the end. And feel free to post those in the chat as we go, and then we will get to them at the tail end of today's presentation. With that, we can get going.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tara. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm a doula and the owner of Modern Birth Co. in Toronto, and I have supported dozens of families over the last few years through pregnancy, birth, and postpartum. And it took me quite a while to find my groove as a doula and to grow my business. And, you know, if you had a similar experience to me, if you're in the birth world, when I took my training, everyone said, like, oh, just join some Facebook groups and like you'll have 4 to 6 clients a month in no time. And I was like, where? Once I finished, I was like, where are all these clients? So if you're here, you might be in a similar boat as I was. And I hope that you find this webinar helpful. When Treehouse asked if I would speak tonight, I really wanted to make sure that everything that I said was coming from a very real and honest place. And I feel like I didn't really have that when I was starting out or struggling in the beginning. And, you know, I joined webinars and I read blogs and they all just said the same thing, like, find your niche, like find your ideal client. My ideal client, like they're pregnant. Like that's my ideal. Like, what do you mean my ideal client? So, you know, I'm going to keep it real here tonight. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. Just keep in mind that, you know, not everything is going to work for everyone. That's okay. I'm going to tell some personal stories, what worked for me and what didn't. It's not going to be like a one size fits all. So take what you want from this and leave the rest. That's totally fine. But I hope that you leave here feeling a little more empowered and confident and with some tools to grow your business.
Thank you, Tara. That's a wonderful introduction. We're so excited and thrilled to have you. As Tara mentioned, she is the owner and chief doula at Modern Birth Co. You can connect with her through modernbirthco.com. And then we will also help you stay connected to her afterwards as well, if you like to follow all of her social handles as well. So with that, let's get going. And please, what we're going to talk about next is really our agenda for today. So today's agenda is going to really focus on Tara highlighting 5 key kind of areas of practice. So we're going to get started with be authentic, move on to utilize your community and get out there. Don't push your product or service. Instead, just be relatable. It might be your website, something we'll talk a little bit about SEO, and then we'll wrap up with accept what's out of your control and stop explaining your value. Again, I will just ask you to keep your questions till the end. Feel free to post them there in that chat. So with that, let's get rolling.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, so be authentic. It seems really simple, but I want to share like a little story with you all. So when I was first starting out as a doula, I found this other Toronto doula on Instagram who had like 8,000 followers, and she just had this perfect aesthetic. It was like the whole page was just so pleasing to the eye, and like the pictures were beautiful, and the way that she explained everything was so like whimsical and gentle and eloquent. And I was like, oh my God, this is how I need to be. Like this, I need to take my content and present it in this way. And so I did for a little bit. and I didn't realize why it wasn't working for me. I was like, where are all the clients? Like, this is working for her. Like, why isn't this working for me? And I realized it's because I'm not like that in real life. I am not delicate. I swear, I talk about uncomfortable things. I talk about pooing while you're pushing and hemorrhoids in the third trimester and uncomfortable things that not everybody wants to talk about. And I had to really look at myself and figure out, okay, who am I in my everyday life? Like, who am I when I'm just hanging out with my friends or my sister or my husband? Who am I really? Because that's the doula that I need to be. And so I really encourage all of you, whether you're a doula or not, I feel like all of this can be applied, whatever kind of provider you are. But take a look in the mirror. Like, I feel like Dr. Phil or something, like, you all need to take a look in the mirror. But like, take a look in the mirror and figure out who you are. Like, think about the way that you are in your everyday life, because that is the way that you need to be as a provider. If you're not being authentic to yourself, it's not going to feel authentic to anyone else. You're going to present yourself one way, and then they're going to meet you in real life, and it's going to be something totally different, and it's just going to feel weird. For me, like, I've always really liked making people laugh ever since I was a kid, and I'm a little bit weird sometimes, and I say weird things, and that's how I am as a doula, and my clients know that. And just know that you are already perfect for someone the way that you are. You don't need to change. You don't need to feel like you need to be someone you're not. If your personality is a little sassy, then be sassy on your website. If you're angry about something, if you're like mad about the induction rate in Canada, which we should all be mad about the induction rate in Canada, but if you are, then post something on Instagram that gets people riled up. Like, let your personality shine through. It's so important.
That's really well said. And I really like what is listed here on kind of the bottom of the slide. You are already the perfect provider for someone simply the way you are. People connect with folks that they can either relate to, or people who have maybe been through similar experiences. So I think that's a really great reminder, and a reminder that isn't just relevant at this stage when you're starting your business, but even as you're growing your business. Don't you agree?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Great.
So this next one, the introverts are going to be a little mad at me for this one, and I'm sorry. But utilize your community and get out there. And I know the introverts are like, I don't want to get out there. Like, please don't make me get out there. And I get it. I am also an introvert. I know it may not seem like it because I'm doing a webinar, but trust me, I'm going to need to go like lay down in a dark room after this. It's going to take a lot out of me. Okay, so again, I'm going to tell you a little story. I already shared that I thought that all it took was going to be joining like 10 mom Facebook groups in my neighborhood, right, to gain clients. And I joined like 10 or 12 of them. I was in every single mom's group that I could find, and I got no clients from that. That did not work for me. Like, to this day, I had no interest that way. But something that did work and was totally unexpected was one day I went into my neighborhood baby store, and I got to talking with the owner. I was there to just buy something randomly, and I got to talking to the owner, and it came up that I was a doula, and she was like, why don't you bring in some business cards? I would love to put them at the front, and I would be happy to refer people to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I should be doing. And so when I say get out there, I mean literally get out there into the world and go talk to people. And also getting out there can also mean online, which I'll get to in a minute, but that was huge for me. And I've gained a handful of clients from doing that. And it was something that was totally unexpected. But if we're going to talk a little bit about being online, you definitely have to get on social media. So one or two platforms, you don't have to be on all of them. Like, I, for the life of me, cannot figure out how to be on TikTok. I just can't. If you can, all the power to you. TikTok is amazing. But for me, I found that Instagram works really well. Either way, I really encourage you to get on Instagram. I look everybody up on Instagram. If I'm going to hire someone, I'm checking to see if they have an Instagram. So pick a couple, get on there. For sure, people are going to be looking you up if they're interested. Social media, it builds credibility and it allows people to get to know you before they even make that first connection. So it also allows it allows you to weed out people that aren't necessarily the right clients for you. Like someone might look at my Instagram and be like, oh, why does she talk about bloody show so much? Like, no thanks, next. And like, that's fine, because I'm not the doula for everyone, and neither are you. But definitely get on social media. That's a big one. And then get on as many directories as you can. So directories are a really easy, kind of no-brainer way to put yourself out there on the internet. The Treehouse directory is great. I'm on there. I'm also on the Association of Ontario Doulas directory. There's I'm on like a neighborhood small business one, and then I'm on one for moms. So check them out, see what's available to you, and get on as many as you can. It's so easy. You just throw up a bio, a cute pic, and you're good to go. And remember that paying to be posted somewhere, it doesn't necessarily mean that the clients are going to flood in. I paid to be on the Association of Ontario Doula site, and I think I've maybe had like 1 or 2 clients from there, but I've had way more by just going in and talking to that small business owner in my neighborhood. So just remember that you don't have to, pay big bucks to get the clients. But really what this all comes down to is pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. Like that is where the growth happens. That is where the change happens. And once I started doing this, I noticed a big difference in the interest and just how many people were messaging me and reaching out to me and following me on Instagram. So get out there. That's the number one thing I can say.
Tara, I completely sympathize. I'm also like you, very introverted. It may seem like I'm not, but like you said, I have to sometimes just go after, long meetings and just kind of decompress because I prefer to just be in my quiet space. Once you do it once and you start to get yourself out there, it's a lot easier the second, third, 10th, 100th time. So I completely sympathize with this one. And it's so relevant in so many different areas as well of business. Let's get on to the next one. So the next one talks about don't push sales, instead be relatable, which is really all about what you have been doing and how you've been building your business, Tara. So I'll turn it over to you.
Totally. So we all know what it's like when someone's trying to sell you something, like you're kind of like, ooh, and they're kind of like, ooh, and it's just weird for everybody. So, I was sliding into people's DMs all the time, more times than I would like to admit. And it didn't work, and it felt gross. It felt gross to me, and it felt gross to them. And if you go to my Instagram now, I'm not posting content or, reels about what a doula can do for you or the benefits of having a doula. I'm just posting relatable stuff that people look at and they're like, oh my God, that's me. She totally understands me. So I'm posting things that are relatable, but also educational. So I want someone to learn something from what they're watching. And to kind of add on to that, I also want to evoke an emotion out of someone. So for me, I stick to kind of the funny stuff, but for you, maybe you want to like make someone cry, and not in a bad way, where you want to like post something that's a tearjerker, you want to get them with their emotions, or maybe you want to post something that gets them fired up. But hooking people with emotions, it is so helpful. You really want people to feel something and feel that connection with you. It makes for a smoother, I find, before they even reach out to you directly, it allows them to feel something for you. So, again, I want people to look at my stuff and feel that connection and feel like they're learning something. And once I stopped trying to sell so much and I just posted relatable stuff, my my Instagram grew like crazy and more people were reaching out to me. So that's a really big one.
Yeah, and I think just being, like you said, being authentic, talking about things that are content that maybe your clients would digest or something that they can learn from is really, really critical. You're there to help and support them. You have the knowledge base, you have the experience, and not only can it help them, but it also allows you to validate the education that you have and the skill set that you have. So you can do that. And then in turn, you can essentially shape your client base. So I think that's really, really great. So let's talk a little bit about website. I know that some folks don't really know too much about SEO, search engine optimization. We're not going to talk a lot about that, but we're going to talk about your website and the way that you present yourself as your online presence.
For sure. So it might be your website. It might be. Don't come for me. It might not be, but it might be. Okay. And for me, it was definitely my website. So in the beginning, I was determined to do it all myself. I was like, I am a strong, smart, independent woman. I don't need anyone to build my site. I don't need to pay anybody to build my site. I'm doing this. And like, it was fine. It was fine. It was really basic. But it didn't really set me apart from the other doulas. And it came to a point where I was like, I think something's going on here. Like, I'm not really getting a lot of traffic. People aren't filling out my contact form. I feel like it might be my site. And so I did a bunch of research on different hosts. I changed my website host. I paid for a template that I really, really liked. And, the template was really cool because it already had things included in it that I wouldn't have even thought to include in my site before. So it had, for example, if you go on my site, I have like a this or that section. So there's like, I don't know, coffee or tea. And then one of them is circled and, like hiking or running, and neither of them are circled because I don't do either of those things. But, but it allows people to like get to know you a little bit before they even reach out to you. And it's like, oh, like she likes Stranger Things. I like Stranger Things too. Like, this is kind of cool. And yeah, like I said, it allows you to just kind of build that connection early on. And it should totally represent you. So it should have some kind of like a philosophy, something that that you live by with your business. And it should be polished and professional, of course. So I always say, like, double check the mobile version and the desktop version, because there's nothing worse than like looking at a site on your phone and they didn't update the mobile version, so it's all like jumbled and weird. But this could be really helpful for you if you just feel like you're not getting a lot of traffic, or people aren't, people are maybe going to your site, but they're not getting to your contact form, or they're not, submitting a request to get in touch. It might be time to consider upgrading or investing in your site.
So speaking of that, actually, Tara, I'm going to jump in with a question. I know we're not at the Q&A, but I thought I'd ask it. Was there a specific period in time when you realized that the website that you had was not working for you? And then that's when you decided, maybe it's time for me to kind of go down that professional road. Did you wait 6 months? Did you wait a year? What was that timeline that you really considered?
I waited a long time. I waited like 2 years. And I guess I just didn't want to admit that it was the site. I really wanted to admit that I could do it myself. And that people just, I don't know, they were just having a hard time finding me or whatever. But it totally, it wasn't that. People were coming, and it wasn't hooking them. So that's kind of when I realized, like, yeah, I think it's time to change something.
Yeah, thank you for being so honest about that, because some folks, 2 years is a long time, but then you tried your best, and then you learned from that, and now you're doing exceptionally well. All right, let's keep going. All right, let's stop explaining our value. What does that mean?
Okay, so like I said, in the beginning, I slid into everyone's DMs all the time. I was feeling really desperate to get clients. I was like over explaining what a doula does. I was like offering discounts. If I even sensed that my price was too high, I was like, oh, if you want, I can offer you 20% off. Like, ugh, just so gross now that I think about it. But I feel like a lot of us have been there and we know that feeling. We just want the client so bad. But I was trying to sell to everybody and like, oh, you don't know what a doula is. Let me tell you what a doula is. And then I would just send people paragraphs about like the emotional support that a doula provides. And it's just, it was really hard for me to accept that there are just some people who will never hire a doula. There are just some people who will never understand the value of investing in their birth experience. And it's not up to you to explain your worth or convince someone of your worth or convince someone that what you're offering is worth the investment. And honestly, like as of right now, I can get on a consult with someone and I'm pretty 9 times out of 10 I can tell during the consult if they're going to hire me or not, just based on how the conversation is going. If I find myself trying to convince them of what a doula is, I at that point I kind of already know they're not going to hire me. So if you find yourself going down that rabbit hole of like over explaining and trying to sell yourself, get the hell out of that hole. Just get out of there. It's like climb out of that hole. You are better than being in that hole. Because like I said, at the end of the day, there are people who just aren't going to understand. And there are people who need to hear from a friend that they had a great doula experience in order for them to reach out to a doula. Otherwise, they may never not reach out to you. So just know that you don't have to convince someone of your worth, and you don't need to convince someone that you're worth the investment. You are worth the investment, and it's not your job to tell someone that.
Well said. I think that's incredibly valuable. And many folks that are listening this evening, they come from different types of work in this space. Some are lactation consultants, and some are doulas, and others support folks in different ways. And I think that's just a really great reminder for everyone that's listening today or is going to be following up with us on our webinar. With that, it's really bringing us to the tail end of our presentation this evening. I'll get started with some questions on our end. So Tara, I'm going to ask you, what is one thing that you would tell yourself if you could go back to when you started your doula work and you look back in retrospect?
There's a lot of things. That it's normal to take a while to get established. Like I mentioned a bunch of times throughout this, I was certainly fed a lie in my training that it was going to be easy. I'm in Toronto, so it's a pretty saturated doula market here. There are a lot of doulas, and it can feel really disheartening when you're starting out, because it takes a long time, and it can feel like you're doing something wrong. So I would definitely go back and say, like, it's not you. Like, this is just the way that it's supposed to go. And then I actually have another one. Can I share another one too?
Of course.
Just because you see another like well-established doula or doula company doing something, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's the right way or the only way. So you definitely need to forge your own path, and don't feel like you need to do something just because it's what someone else is doing.
Yeah, good reminder. Now, when did you really start to see those referrals come in? Or, you said word of mouth is incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
How long did that take?
Honestly, it took a long time to start seeing referrals. I've only started seeing referrals in the last maybe 8 months to a year. Again, that was one of those things that I thought when I started out, like, I just need like 1 or 2 clients to tell 5 of their friends, and then their friends will tell their friends, and then I'll just be set for life. And it's not the way that it goes. It takes a long time, and not everyone will refer you. And again, it's not because you're not a great doula or provider. It's just sometimes people just don't refer you. So I would say that it took a while. Like, I've only started seeing them in the last year or so.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and that's actually really refreshing to hear because people expect that referral network to just happen so quickly. And as soon as you have one client that was satisfied, you think it's just going to, bring you seven new clients, right? And it doesn't work that way. So that's a really good reminder again to consider your brand in there, to consider not only yourself, how you're also advertising and how you're attracting those clients. Another question, use any apps or Canva to create content for your socials? So like you said, social media can be quite intimidating. TikTok's not your forte. Instagram is. Um, First of all, how did you find out your forte? And then what kind of apps do you use to make it happen?
Yeah, so Instagram, I mean, I've been on Instagram for a long time just personally, so I already felt pretty comfortable with the app.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I definitely use Canva. I love Canva. I don't pay for the premium one. It's like I feel like I could get like some more things through the premium one, but you don't have to pay. Like there's so many great things on there that you can use and it's free. So yeah, I use for all of my posts that are written, like not reels, everything is made on Canva. So 100%.
Yeah. I know you kind of touched on this one, but I'm going to ask you again. How long did it take for you to get those first few clients from the time that you really kind of started your business? Did you wait a long time? How did it happen? Maybe you want to share that story with us.
Yeah. So when I was going through certification, you need to go to a certain number of births in order to certify. And so in the beginning through that, and then right after I graduated, I got a couple of clients, but that was mostly because I was offering discounts. I was offering like two prenatal in-home visits and then two postnatal visits and the birth and like the on-call texting and calling and all of that. And it was like I was offering it for like $400. And so it's, it that's probably why people were hiring me in the beginning because it was so cheap. Don't do that, by the way. You're going to burn yourself out and you won't be a provider for very long if you're not charging your worth. Um, but I mean, once I started charging, again, it took a long time. I would say it took a solid 2 years before I really started getting like lots of interest and people reaching out. And I know that's not what people want to hear. And I hope that it's sooner for you, but that's how long it took for me in Toronto, like in a big city. I think that it might, if you're in more of a rural area where there aren't too many doulas and you're able to kind of like corner the market, it might be a little bit different. But for me, there are just so many of us here, so it was really, really hard to get started.
Thank you for just like I said, just being really honest about it and sharing that authentic story because it's not that easy to just launch yourself into a new market and then just completely get those clients that you want. All right. Well, with that, then, if we have no further questions, I'm going to wrap it up for this evening. Tara, you've shared some really incredible tips and just really authentic pieces. You talked a lot about what it is like to find new clients for your practice. I encourage everyone to stay connected to Tara, to network with Tara if you're a practitioner in this space. And then also if you're looking for a doula or if your clients are in the GTA, to reach out to Tara herself. Thank you again for joining us. This series of webinars is really focused on helping providers optimize their practices, learn new tactics they can implement to attract new clients, and really give you guys the best strategies to take your business to the next level. We have a series of other webinars coming forward. The next one is December the 12th on how to build a community feel in your practice. So I encourage you to register for that one. That these webinars are free and they're meant to be accessible and useful for everyone that is watching and registered. So I thank you very much for your time this evening. Thank you, Tara, sincerely for your time, and we hope to see you again soon.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for
Thanks.
joining.
Okay, bye.